resistance to our practice or to practices that we know are helping us, including things like working out, eating healthy and whatnot. The switch we want to make, and I have to remind myself this all the time, right? So I'm not pointing the finger at anyone, but the switch we want to make is in understanding where the resistance is actually coming from. The resistance is not coming from necessarily the meditation or the gym or these other things. The resistance is coming from our comfort zone. It's coming from our addiction and the habits that we formed to that comfort zone, to sedentary, to the status quo, to all of that. That's where the resistance is coming from. It doesn't want you to leave that zone because it's so familiar. And so when you get to the edge of it, some of the signposts that you're going to see along the edge are, you've been working so hard, you deserve a donut, or, this is, you're being too rigid, or, you're spending too much time doing this and not enough time doing the other things, connecting with your family. You should go binge watch Netflix, forget about your meditation right now. And all these really important sounding reasons and excuses are not coming from the meditation, they're coming from the comfort zone. And when we can remember that, it may not work every single time, but I think more often than not, when we remember that, we'll be able to keep putting one foot in front of the other foot in the direction of whatever that thing is. And that's really all that we need to think about or worry about is, okay, how do I get this right foot in front of the left foot? Okay, now how do I get the left foot in front of the right foot? And just keep moving forward. Even if you feel like you're mailing it in one day and or you're shortchanging yourself in some way. I heard this guy say, who's a workout guy, he said, if you just like walk, just commit to just walking into the gym every day. Just get dressed, go to the gym, walk in, and then turn around and walk out and go back home. And just do that every day. Don't even worry about working out. Just walk into the gym. And what tends to happen is just by walking into the gym, you end up, I'm already here. I'm already dressed up. Let me just go get on the treadmill for 5 minutes and then I'll go home. And then cut to 30 minutes later, you've been working out, right? But if you think about what all the workout entails and what all the meditation entails and what all the things entails, that overwhelming thought in contrast to how you're feeling is it may stop you from even taking one step. So, but if you keep it really, really simple, and this is really the basis of the challenges that we've been doing inside of the community, is making it. And I have to check myself, right? Because when I'm the type, a lot of people would look at me and consider me to be more disciplined than most people. And, in some ways, I guess that's true. In a lot of ways, I don't think it is, but in some ways, I guess that's true. But I have to remember when I'm structuring these challenges to just scale it back. Like nobody's, people are not going to want to do all these things. And every single time we do that, it ends up being, to see someone go from day 1 to day 108 in a challenge, online challenge, it's a very remarkable thing, considering the fact that these online even like a 21-day challenge only has a 3% completion rate. That's the standard. That's the industry average. And these challenges inside our community have like a 70, sometimes even 80% completion rate. And it's not because I'm some sort of expert in constructing challenges, but I used to be in the board game industry back in the late 90s. I used to create board games. That was my first entrepreneurial venture. It wasn't successful on paper, but I learned a lot, which, you know, is successful in my book. I learned a lot. And one of the things about board games that you have to get really good at is the rules of the game, constructing the rules. That's basically what the game is the rules. And so my partner and I, we did something that was pretty ingenious, if I must say so myself. We created a prototype of the game that we made up. And I had a background in graphic design and stuff, so it looked like a decently constructed prototype, maybe something you would have gotten at some store somewhere. And we test played it with a lot of different groups. Like every time we would get together with a group of people, we would bring out the game, and then we would lie, and we would say that our friend created this board game, and he gave us a copy of it to play. And do you guys want to play? You know, we'd always let it be their idea. And so when they said yes, then we said, okay, well, who wants to read the rules? And then we give it to somebody to read the rules to see how they were going to interpret our rules, you know, because if someone couldn't understand them, then we needed to go back and tweak them. So then we would just be sitting there listening to how they were interpreting the rules. And sometimes they would get them completely wrong. And we just kind of look at each other and go, okay, we need to fix that tonight. and go home and tweak it. And that's essentially how we created the rules, because you have to make them foolproof. And once you make them foolproof, then you know your game is ready for the larger market. So when we're creating these challenges, it's the same kind of deal where, you know, you want to make them easy enough for anybody. And we call it, Julia's in the community, she's one of the co-hosts, and we call it the grandmother test. If a 75 or whatever year old person who's not, meaning someone who's not technically proficient necessarily, and who's kind of been far removed from all of that, if they can't figure it out without a bunch of explanation and context, then it's probably not. Or if they can't, you know, in the movement challenge, for instance, if we're going to have push-ups, they got to be able to do push-ups too, because we want them to be included. So how can they do push-ups? Okay, well, let's say people can do wall push-ups. Anybody can do a wall push-up, right? Or chair squats, just standing up and sitting down out of your chair, however many times. So, and then it goes from that end of the spectrum all the way to put a band around you, get on the floor, put your legs up on something, and do some push-ups. So that, you know, some young guy who's in his 20s can also feel challenged as well. So it takes a lot of consideration to structure these things in a way that almost anybody can do, but that's what it takes to get through the resistance. So if you're feeling that in any area of your life, then that's a sign that you're overcomplicating. And it's an opportunity to simplify it more, right? For instance, I was at the gym yesterday and I was doing some sprints, and I haven't done sprints in a while. And normally I was doing 10 sprints on the treadmill, right, at a certain speed, at a certain incline. And after 5, I was exhausted. And I started getting to my head, well, you know, I don't want to do these last 5, but I said I was going to do 10 and blah, blah, blah. So I ended up cutting it short. I ended up just doing five sprints. But I walked away from that saying, instead of not doing sprints anymore or beating myself up because of it, I'll start just doing 5. And then from those 5, I'll build up to the 10 that I was at before, because I'm not in sprint condition like I was before. So I scale back, and then I'll start building up again from there and use consistency to my advantage. So instead of turning myself off of doing them because I'm throwing up because I pushed myself too far, scale it back and then build up from there. Okay. And the same thing is happening in the community. You know, with the 108-day challenge, it's 10 minutes a day. But once you get to the end of that, there's another challenge that unlocks where we encourage you to meditate for 15 minutes a day. And then another one after that for another 108 days where you do 20 minutes a day. And then another one after that where you do 20 minutes in the morning and then 10 minutes in the afternoon. And then another 108 days after that. So gradually over a couple of years, you're building up to 20 minutes twice a day, but you're starting with 10 minutes, right? So you can do that same thing for yourself in whatever it is that you're finding resistance is, because the resistance is going to be there. That's how you know you're doing something that's valuable, is because there's resistance. If there's no resistance, then that's probably not a sustainable activity that you're engaging in, right? But the fact that there's resistance means that there's some value to that. And so that's definitely what the direction you want to go in, and keep putting one step in front of the other.
If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. Click this thumbnail right here, and I'll see you over there.